Hey, fellow deep divers, ready to dive into India's environmental organizations? Whether you're prepping for UPSC exams, studying environment, or just curious about India's green scene, this one's for you. And hey, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and smash that notification bell so you don't miss future deep dives. All right, let's get started.
It's amazing how many organizations are out there protecting India's environment.
Yeah, for real, it's inspiring.
And it's not just small groups. We're talking serious commitment even from the top.
Oh, really? Like, who are we talking about here?
Well, how about the Prime Minister?
The Prime Minister? Seriously?
Yeah, the Prime Minister chairs the National Board for Wildlife.
The NBWL.
Exactly, that's the one.
So even big development projects have to answer to them. That's a big deal.
Oh, it is. They have a huge say in approving projects near protected areas and tackling big conservation issues.
Wow, so it's like they're saying economic growth can't just trample over wildlife?
It's all about balance.
I like that. And it's not just about protecting whole ecosystems, right? There's focus on specific species, too.
Absolutely, like the National Tiger Conservation Authority, the NTCA.
Of course, the tiger, India's national animal.
Right, but it's not as narrow as it sounds.
Oh, how so?
Well, they actually work with local communities near tiger reserves.
Really?
Yeah, helping them develop ecotourism, organic farming, things like that.
So everyone benefits.
Exactly. It's about showing that conservation can work for both people and wildlife.
That's a cool approach. Now, while the NTCA is working with communities, there's another group tackling organized crime.
You're talking about the Wildlife Crime Control Bureau, the WCCB?
That's what I'm picturing, like poaching rings,
Yeah.
illegal wildlife trafficking, that kind of thing.
You got it. It's a global issue, and the WCCB is right on the front lines here in India.
So what are they doing about it?
They're running some seriously impressive operations, busting smuggling rings, seizing illegal wildlife products. It's making a difference.
Wow, it's like a real-life action movie.
They even have these cool operation names like Operation Safe Kurma and Operation Thunderbird.
Okay, so that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and they're not just about enforcement either. They're also working hard to educate the public.
About the dangers of the illegal wildlife trade.
Exactly. Spreading awareness is key to long-term success.
I totally agree. Okay, so we've talked about protecting animals in the wild, but what about those in zoos?
Ah, yes, zoos have definitely evolved.
Yeah, they're not just about entertainment anymore, are they?
Not at all. In India, we have the Central Zoo Authority, the CZA, and they set some pretty high standards.
Like what kind of standards?
They're making sure zoos meet international best practices for animal welfare and conservation.
So it's more about creating good environments for the animals.
And contributing to research and breeding programs for endangered species.
So they're like living museums where people can learn about animals and connect with nature.
Yeah, you could say that. It's about shifting the focus to active learning and appreciation.
I like that. And that brings us to another important aspect, research.
Absolutely. And in India, we have two big players in this field, the Botanical Survey of India, the BSI, and the Zoological Survey of India, the ZSI.
I've heard of those, but they sound kind of old school. Are they still relevant today?
Oh, they're definitely still relevant. The BSI, for instance, was founded way back in 1890.
Wow, 1890, that's ancient.
And they're still going strong. They've adapted with the times.
So what kind of work are they doing these days?
Well, the BSI, for example, is actively researching and documenting India's plant life.
So they're helping us understand what we have and what needs protection.
Exactly. They even published the Red Data Book of Indian Plants, which identifies endangered species.
That's really important work. It's like laying the groundwork for protecting India's biodiversity.
It really is. They're not just historians of nature. They're actively shaping its future.
That's amazing. So it's clear that India takes research seriously, and these organizations are playing a vital role in understanding and protecting our natural heritage.
Absolutely. It's a collaborative effort that involves scientists, policymakers, and even everyday citizens like us.
Yeah, we all have a part to play in protecting our planet. Speaking of protecting India's biodiversity, what about the forests?
Yes, forests. They're crucial.
Yeah, but they seem like a whole other world with their own set of challenges.
Absolutely. And India has a dedicated organization keeping a close eye on them.
Really? Which one?
The Forest Survey of India, the FSI.
Okay, I'm not as familiar with them. What do they actually do?
Think of them as the guardians of India's forests.
Okay, I like that.
They've been surveying and assessing our forest resources since 1981.
Wow, that's a long time.
And get this, they release a detailed forest survey report every 2 years.
Every 2 years. That's a lot of data.
It's like a comprehensive health checkup for our forests.
So they're tracking forest cover, deforestation rates, all that.
Exactly. It helps policymakers and conservationists make informed decisions.
So it's not just about protecting forests, it's about really understanding them.
Yeah, monitoring their health, ensuring they thrive for generations to come.
That's a great way to put it. As we talk about all these organizations, I'm struck by how interconnected everything is.
You're right. It's not just about individual species or ecosystems. It's about the big picture.
The web of life.
Exactly. And in India, this idea of interconnectedness is at the heart of our conservation efforts.
So it's not just about protecting nature for its own sake.
It's about recognizing that healthy ecosystems are essential for our well-being, our economy, our culture.
It all comes back to us in the end.
Exactly. And that brings us to another important aspect, protecting entire ecosystems.
So not just focusing on individual species, but the habitats they depend on.
You got it. It's like that saying, save the rainforest, save the tiger.
Exactly. One can't exist without the other. So which organizations are doing this kind of work?
Well, one example is the National Plan for Conservation of Aquatic Ecosystems, the NPCA.
Aquatic ecosystems. So we're talking lakes, rivers, wetlands, all that.
You got it. The NPCA takes a holistic approach.
Meaning?
They recognize that lakes and wetlands are connected and need to be managed as a whole.
Okay, that makes sense.
They work on pollution control, habitat restoration, sustainable water management, all sorts of things.
So they're looking at the big picture, the whole network of aquatic ecosystems.
Exactly. They understand that a healthy lake depends on a healthy watershed, and that depends on healthy forests and responsible land use.
It's all connected. And speaking of connectedness, what about the Ganges River?
Ah, the Ganges. It's more than just an ecosystem. It's a symbol of India's cultural heritage.
It's sacred to millions of people.
And to protect it, the government established the National Ganga River Basin Authority, the NGRBA.
Wait, hold on. Is this another one of those organizations chaired by the Prime Minister?
You bet it is. It shows how seriously they take the health of the Ganges.
So the Prime Minister is really putting environmental protection front and center.
You could say that the NGRBA is tackling all sorts of issues, from sewage treatment to industrial pollution.
It's a huge task cleaning up the Ganges.
It is, but they're making progress step by step.
That's good to hear. Okay, so we've talked about a lot of organizations, but what about the laws behind all this? Does India actually have strong environmental laws?
Oh, absolutely. India has a very robust legal framework for environmental protection.
But laws are just words on paper, right?
Yeah.
How do they actually translate into real action?
That's where organizations like the Animal Welfare Board of India, the AWBI, and the National Biodiversity Authority, the NBA, come in.
So they're the ones making sure the laws are actually enforced.
Exactly. They play a crucial role in implementation and enforcement.
Okay, so the AWBI focuses on animal welfare, right?
That's right. And the NBA is responsible for implementing the Biological Diversity Act.
Which is all about conserving India's incredible biodiversity.
Precisely.
So the NBA is making sure India is following the Convention on Biological Diversity.
That's right. We're talking about that global agreement to protect biodiversity all over the world.
It's about making sure our national laws are in line with those international efforts.
Exactly. And it goes even further than that. The NBA also helps set up state biodiversity boards.
So it's like a multi-layered approach with organizations working at the national, state, and even local levels.
You got it. It's about realizing that conservation takes a team effort across all levels of government.
This is really fascinating stuff. But with so many different groups involved, isn't there a risk of duplicated effort or even conflicting priorities?
That's a good question. It's definitely a complex system, but there are ways to make sure everyone's working together.
Like what kind of ways?
Well, for example, lots of these organizations have representatives on each other's boards.
So they can communicate directly and stay on the same page.
Exactly. It helps break down those silos and encourages a more integrated approach to conservation.
That makes a lot of sense. But what about bigger challenges like climate change? How do all these organizations work together on something that big?
Well, that's where initiatives like the National Action Plan on Climate Change come in.
Okay, tell me more about that.
This plan brings together all sorts of ministries and departments, environment, energy, agriculture, water resources, you name it.
So it's like a massive team effort with everyone bringing their expertise to the table.
Exactly, because climate change affects all of us. So we need a solution that involves everyone.
Makes sense. Now, before we wrap up, I have one more question. What would you say to someone who's just starting out, maybe a student who's passionate about the environment and wants to make a difference?
That's a great question. I would say, first and foremost, stay curious.
Keep learning.
Exactly. Read everything you can, get your hands on books, articles, research papers, anything that teaches you about the environment and the challenges we face.
Knowledge is power, right?
Absolutely, and don't be afraid to get your hands dirty. Volunteer with environmental organizations, join citizen science projects, participate in online discussions. There are tons of ways to contribute.
It's all about finding what you're passionate about and where you can make the biggest impact.
Right, and remember, every little bit helps. Even small changes in our daily lives can make a difference.
That's a great point. It's a reminder that we're all part of the solution.
We all have a role to play in protecting our planet.
Well said. I think we've covered a lot of ground today. We've explored the amazing network of organizations working to protect India's environment, from high-level boards to grassroots efforts. It's been an incredible journey.
I completely agree. It's been a pleasure sharing this deep dive with you and all our listeners out there.
And to our listeners, whether you're preparing for the UPSC exams, studying environmental science, or just curious about India's commitment to conservation, we hope this deep dive has given you a better understanding of the amazing work being done by environmental organizations across India.
And remember, this is just the beginning. There's so much more to explore, so much more to learn.
So keep asking questions, stay curious, and keep diving deep.
We'll see you next time.
And don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and click the notification bell so you never miss an episode. We'll be back soon with another fascinating topic to explore. Until then, keep those brains engaged and keep on learning.